All right, we got a 2012 Jeep Patriot here. I'm going to go ahead and put rear struts on it. I'm actually doing rear wheel bearing. Got brakes, control arm. We got a control arm. It's got a bad bushing on it. Bunch of work back here. And I've already done this side, you can see. And the main reason why I did that is because I was doing the wheel bearing on this side, so I just want to knock this side out. I'm going to show you how to do the rear struts on this, the other side. They're both the same no matter which way you do it. So let's go to the rear here real quick, and I'll show you what you have to get the top of the strut off. All right, while I'm under here, I'm going to go ahead and take this nut off for the sway link. Now, be advised, these could break or snap off. If they do, you got to buy new ones. They're not very expensive. I already ordered some in case they do. And then we're going to take off this 18-millimeter bolt nut on the bottom of the shock or strut, and then we'll take off the 18-millimeter on the actual spindle or control arm assembly over there, so that we can get this down far enough. And I'm actually going to take these off up here. So I'm going to change the control arm on this one. You can kind of see here the bushing shot on this. So we're doing a strut, but I'm also you're going to see this is going to be new when I move on to that part of it. And I'm not going to really show all that, but you do have to take the sway link off, I'm pretty sure, to get it down far enough, and take off this 18-millimeter bolt nut on this side to get this arm to come down far enough to clear the strut, because it goes up pretty far into the body over there. So just got two 18 millimeter here, and then these are 13, at least on this car. If it's aftermarket, it might be something different. But anyway, that's what we're going to do first, is get this loose, 13 millimeter nut and bolt for the sway link. All right, again, this sway stabilizer link might break. I have to see how it goes. Got a 13 millimeter deep in on this side, and we're going to try to run it off and hope for the best. If it breaks, it breaks, but oh. All right, so this one doesn't break. That's good. So go ahead and change over, get the tools for the 18 millimeter on this. And I got the wheel on still. I got to take that off still, obviously. But I was already under here working on the other side, changing strut on the other side. So I figured I'd just do it while I'm under here and then kind of work backwards. But this is 18 millimeter nut and bolt on this side. I just get an 18 millimeter wrench to hold it, and this should zip off pretty easy. This one's not too rusty. All right, and what I usually do on these, put the nut back on a little bit, and what I'm going to do is, tap it with my mallet, which, let me go get that real quick. All right, I went ahead and hit it with my hammer. I actually got the camera attached to my hammer, that's why I couldn't. And then what I do, a lot of times on bolts like this, take your open end of your wrench, put it this way, and it'll kind of bind up right there, and then get your impact or whatever you're using, and sometimes you can just run these out pretty easily. You don't have to tear your hands up. So the strut on the bottom is loose now. Like I said, I still got to pull the wheel off, and then we're going to take this 18 millimeter bolt nuts, basically the same as what holds your strut on. We'll take that out, and then we'll go up top, and I'll show you how to get to that. So kind of starting backwards. Normally I would start at the top and do this, but since I was already under here for the other side, just went ahead and did it this way. It doesn't really matter either way. So I'm going to pull the wheel off, and then we'll do this, and then go to the top. All right, I got the wheel off. While I'm under here, I'm going to go ahead and knock this 18 off here. And the reason why we have to take this one off is because the arm won't go down far enough, even with the sway link disconnected, to clear the shock to come out. So it's kind of a pain or an extra step, but there's no way around it, at least if you got factory shot. I tried doing it a couple different ways on the other side and couldn't get it to come off. So this one has to come off. It basically comes out like the strut does. And I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to hit it real quick, and then we'll get it out the same way. I just went ahead and tapped it with the mallet. And there's a little bit of rust on this one compared to the other one, but it should come off fairly easy. I'm going to get on the side here. Like I said, I have to take the whole arm off on this one because the bushing's wasted, so you'll see a new arm. Almost there. You'll see a new arm next time, but that's just because this bushing's shot on this one. So I'm going to take the arm off on the other end, and then we'll go to the top where the struts held on. All right, so I went ahead and removed the spare tire cover already. It's right there. Just kind of pulls out, and then what we're trying to get to is right in here. And this particular car has, you can see right here, this particular car has a big pad right here, kind of in the way of the strut. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. This kind of pulls away. And then we can pull this out of the way. So let me do that real quick with two hands, and then so I'm just pulling this foam out of the way to get to the bolts on here. You got two bolts in here. One on each side. You got one right here, 15 mil, and then you got one right here. And I use a open-end ratcheting wrench to get those out. You just see I got the opening ratcheting in there. I'm just going back and getting these out. And on the other side, what I'll probably do is go in through this hole here. Once you pop it loose, this access panel, you can kind of go in through this side and get to the other side. So that's all you're doing on the top is just taking these two nuts out. Right where these two slots are, and this a little bit time consuming because we're not using power tools or anything, so I'll just pick it back up when I get the two nuts out. All right, since we already took the bottom stuff apart, the strut will basically fall out when you get those two nuts out. I didn't even touch it, it just fell out on its own. Of course, the control arm on mine is gone, so yours will still have your control arm and it'll probably hold it. But once you get the two top bolts or nuts out, then you're ready to pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the new strut and kind of set my new control arm in there, and then we'll start bolting this thing back up. All right, so like I said before, I'm putting a new control arm on this because of the bushing. So this is new arm. And what I got going on, I just put the strut up in there. You kind of line it up with the top here. And then you drop this arm down or have it down. It's already going to be down, especially if you took your stabilizer link off. Put the strut in there and then jack up the lower control arm so you can get your lower bolt in here. I already got this lower bolt in. I just took the control or the jack and kind of jacked it up. Got it started. Now, if you're having trouble lining up these holes, especially this one here, a lot of times your stabilizer link, because it gets kind of seized in where it's at, even though you took the nut off, the actual bolt is kind of seized in with the bushings and all that. It makes it real hard to move the control arm around and get it where you need to get it to line it up. These stabilizer links are only like, I think around $10 at O'Reilly's. So if you're going to do struts back here, I would just recommend getting new stabilizer links. That way you can just take them completely off and they won't interfere with lining up your bolts. You can reuse them if you want to, if they're still good. But these were the original ones, and they're only like, I think, $10 or less. So I just went ahead and got new ones. And I don't have, that way it's not in my way when I'm trying to line all the bolts up and do all that. So once you get this bolt started, you got the strut through the spot where it's supposed to be. Go ahead and put your two nuts on the top and get those started. I went ahead and just put them in real quick. You just take them out. You put them in the same way you take them out. Put your hands through the holes there and torque those down. I got them torqued down. So now this strut is not going to go anywhere. And then you can lower it, the jack down, so that you can get your strut holes lined up. And you're probably going to have to use a pry bar and pull down on it a little bit. But once you get this bottom bolt in, all you got left really is just this bolt here that goes to the strut. And we're just going to use a big pry bar and pull it down and kind of line it up. And like I said before, taking that stabilizer link completely off is really the key to making it easier. Because even though the nut's off on the bottom, if you take that off, it still wants the top part, the stud part goes through there, and it makes it real hard to manipulate the lower control arm. So I'm going to go get a sway bar or a big pry bar and pull down on this, and hopefully we can get this bottom bolt started pretty easy. Right, so I got a pry bar hooked up, and a good spot right here is under this trailing arm. Go in underneath your brake line right here and go into the frame. And just be careful of your brake line. But that's where I go. Kind of pull down on this. And then, you pull down on the assembly and then get the shock lined up. It was not exactly easy. It's a kind of a pain. I ended up using a small drift to get it started, and then I kind of manipulated it and finally got it started. But with these new struts and everything, they can be a pain to line up these two lower bolts. It helps to have like a drift or something to kind of start it and then straighten it out and then use a combination of pulling down the pry bar, and almost helps if you have another person with you to help. Maybe you get it positioned right and then they start it. I ended up taking a smaller pry bar and ran it up through the control arm by the strut and kind of pushed it. I kind of pulled on it towards the other side, and that kind of moved the strut over. I don't know. These are Monroe shocks. These are pretty decent shocks, but it just seemed like I had a lot of trouble getting them lined up on the lower control arm here. So, and it's definitely easier without the sway link installed, like I said before. But anyway, now that's all done. Basically, I put the two nuts on the top. They're tight. Put your foam piece back in, and then you can put your spare tire cover back on. That's done. So all you got left after you do that is just tighten up your bolts here. I got to tighten the one over there because like I said, this is a new control arm, and then I'm going to put a brand new sway link on. That's completely up to you what you do on that, but this one's getting the new one. So anyway, that's about it. I also have a video on front struts on the same Jeep. I did those about a year or two ago. Put a used engine in this Jeep and been kind of working on it. And then anyway, he's going to give it to his daughter to drive. So it's going to be back on the road for a while. So we're just getting things kind of straightened away here on it. So anyway, thanks for watching. As always, God bless.